This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the GSMC Sports Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jeff Malinoff, and with me once again is Mark Souza. We got a lot to talk about today in sports. We got Monday Night Football game between the Niners and Giants. We're going to talk about some NBA games that have happened in the previous couple of days. And we're also going to talk about Le'Veon Bell's final day as to check in, or he's not going to play the whole season. We'll also talk about the new draft order of the NFL and surprising who's in the top 10 and surprising who's not in the top 10 and other things that happened in sports we'll cover at the last segment. But first, let's start with the 49ers and Giants Monday Night Football. A surprisingly entertaining game to watch, all things considered, since these are the two of the worst teams in the league record-wise. And the Giants edged out the win 27-23. In a last game-winning drive by Eli Manning, once again, I'll throw it to Sterling Sharp, and then it was a very entertaining game to watch. Don't you think so?
It was like you said. It was maybe some people thought it wasn't going to be an entertaining game. I actually thought it was going to have some action because we're talking about two teams that are similar in terms of record and talent level at this point. So. It wasn't really an outcome that I didn't see coming. I thought the Niners would edge out the win, but it came down to the last drive, and Eli had one of those, I guess, old magical comebacks that he has been famous for a couple times, and he got one last night. He might be his last one. We will see.
Yeah. We definitely will see since he's 38, right? They said 38?
Yeah. And beyond what his actual age is, he just looks like he's done. So.
And give credit to the 49ers for Barkley had 20 rushing attempts, but only 67 yards. They held him this game, definitely.
Yeah, he's been like this all year, where he's struggling to get consistent yardage behind that offensive line.
Yeah, the offensive line is sloppy, but he's had some breakout games against pretty good defenses, all things considered. So It just shows that. Like, the 49ers, like, they're 2-8, sure, but they play like they're 8-2. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and we heard Jason Witten talk about it on the Monday night broadcast, just about how, he spent time with the team, and they don't do things like they're a losing team, like other teams in the league that might have losing records.
Raiders.
You can see it, like, in the way they practice, in the way they prepare, but. Credit to Shanahan's staff, because he did mention that, they don't act like a team that's won 2 games and lost 8. They act like a team that feels confident and wants to put their best foot forward each week.
To be honest, like, all these injuries are really what's holding them back. Like, usually people blame, this guy's injured, this guy's injured. The 49ers lost their starting quarterback and their starting running back by week 3. And overall, like, they're still on a rebuilding phase. So getting a high draft pick this year can only benefit them.
I was watching the game last night, and I stopped to think, and I said, look, one team has a 2-time Super Bowl winning quarterback, Odell Beckham Jr., Saquon Barkley, Evan Ingram, and Sterling Shepard on one side of the field, and the other offense...
Oh my God, I said Sterling Sharp before. I got to apologize. I totally just blanked. I just realized I said Sterling Sharp. And Shannon Sharp's brother. I meant Sterling Shepard, excuse me.
The other offense has an undrafted, basically rookie quarterback who's a practice squad player. They have Matt Breida, who's an undrafted running back.
He played really well, though. He had over 100 yards rushing.
They have Alfred Morris, who wasn't on an NFL roster until the Niners needed a running back.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have Marquise Goodwin, again, like a late-round draft pick that came from the Bills. You have Kendrick Bourne, undrafted player. and I think it was maybe Trent Taylor, who was a 5th or 6th round draft pick on the field. And it's like one team has these first round draft picks, at different stages of their career, and the other team has these undrafted players. So I got to give a lot of credit to the Niners coaching staff. They are competitive, and they really shouldn't be. When you look at this team on paper, they really should not be competitive.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. And the thing is with the 49ers is the fact that even with all these players, Kyle Shanahan's still getting the best out of his offense. Like, George Kittle is one of the best tight ends in the game. Marquise Goodwin's starting to be one of those threats at the wide receiver, like, for any team. Mm-hmm. And you're looking at Matt Breida, like, yeah, he can't get all the carries because he's kind of injury prone. But once McKinnon gets back, him and Breida are going to be a dangerous 1-2 punch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Breida's a good player.
Yeah, and adding Garoppolo only benefits the quarterback position. And they have the number 2 overall pick as of right now, which they probably will hold on to if they keep losing. And that can only they get no Nick Bosa because of that. That's probably Nick Bosa right there, or the Raiders. The Raiders might get Nick Bosa, but they also might get Herbert. I was thinking like that. So the 49ers can only look at this as a huge positive.
Yeah, not only that, but they're also looking at maybe the top or second or third pick in the second round too. So you're looking at 2 players adding your team in the top
and a high
35.
salary cap.
Yes, exactly. So
and people can want to come to the San Francisco 49ers. Like, John Lynch can recruit guys. We've seen that already.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, there's not too many more attractive places to go, and playing for an I say offensive coordinator because he basically is, but the head coach Kyle Shanahan, it's attractive for offensive-minded players, offensive skill position players to go there because, hey, I'm going to be playing for one of the most innovative, creative,
probably the best
minds.
Offensive mind in the league at the moment.
One of them, absolutely.
And also the defensive side, there's a lot of positives. Like, there are a lot of negatives, all things considered. Like Keelan Witherspoon getting beat twice on the same exact play. Mm-hmm. And then blaming his safety for not helping when he's the one that got burned twice. So that really bothered me because I hate it when people blame others for their mistakes. And I feel like that was on him. Mm-hmm. And he was supposed to be this great corner coming out of Colorado, and he's really been struggling. So
yeah, definitely he was a third-round pick.
But besides Richard Sherman, that defense needs help.
Yeah,
a lot of help.
Their linebacking unit when Reuben Foster is on the field, and I think that this was a game that he could have played in, but the Niners at this point aren't.
Like, why put a risky guy?
They're not going to be putting guys who are questionable out there really, unless they're more likely probable than questionable. So, but yeah, they definitely need a corner. I mean,
DeForest Buckner is also a great defensive. Like, DeForest Buckner and Richard Sherman are those 2 guys on the defensive side that are really strong.
Yes,
and they just need help around them.
Fred Warner was a really good draft pick too.
Absolutely, at BYU. Mm-hmm. And looking at the Giants side, this only hurts them winning because I don't see them. They're in a tough division in the NFC East.
It gives their fans something, though. I mean, it's nice to see your team win every once in a while. And Eli showed some of that old magic.
They weren't playing that great throughout the whole game, though.
No, they weren't. I mean, I thought it was weird. If you watched, 3.5 quarters of that game, you probably think, oh, the Giants lose.
Like, Manning had 3 touchdowns, yeah, but he only had 188 yards passing. Like,
right.
But there were 2 interceptions that gave him good field position. But when you look at the stats, it's not like the nicest looking stats. Like, they had no sacks this game, and 1 guy with 2 interceptions in Goodson. And looking at this, there are a lot of things working on for the Giants, but honestly, this was a game that I think both fan bases wanted them to lose, so they get a better draft pick. Because this draft this year is not quarterback based. They showed it on Monday Night Football, like the 3 other top recruited quarterbacks. One of them's from Duke, and that's one of the last teams you would expect to have a top drafted player, let alone a quarterback.
I like that.
And also, you got to look at the fact that the 49ers, or the Giants, are just in need of more defensive players, and this is a defensive draft, a big-time defensive draft.
I like when quarterbacks are not from the biggest schools, though, where they kind of have to, maybe play against better talent on the other team, on the other teams that they face in their conference. Like, for example, Duke. Like, these quarterbacks coming in, you can be a great quarterback and go to a big school. You can be a great quarterback and go to a mid-tier school. But I like when those quarterbacks are coming from maybe not the most attractive colleges, like the USC's, Alabama's, Ohio State's. So we'll see how those kids do. But yeah, the draft this year, I don't know. It seems like it is kind of a down year, but there's lots of talent every year. So it's just about finding that player.
But there's always like one position that's like a key position that's the elite position for this draft.
Maybe the Giants did it right last year by taking Barkley and not taking a quarterback. Maybe they did, because you could say that Barkley was
the
best.
ones that had to take Herbert, you think?
Well, you could say that they are the one. You could say that Barkley was the best player in last year's draft. You could argue that.
Absolutely, on the offensive side.
And then when you look at it, even if the Giants fall to 3, 4, 5, 6 pick this year, the teams in front of them are most likely not taking quarterbacks. You mentioned the Raiders, which is an interesting idea. I could see that happening if they decide to kind of turn away from Derek Carr. But the 49ers aren't going to take a quarterback. The Cardinals are not going to take a quarterback. The Buffalo Bills are not going to take a quarterback. So, the Giants might have the pick of the litter, even sitting at number 4 and number 5.
Yeah, and Justin Herbert is a great quarterback, no question about it. He's been playing extremely well at Oregon. But, not a lot. I haven't seen a lot of Duke play football, to be honest with you, because they're not just on national television. They're not really on television, to be honest. So it's hard to find their games. So I don't know much about him, but I will definitely look more into him if he's one of the top recruiting quarterbacks.
Yeah, it wasn't too long ago when, even last year, Josh Allen, he went to Wyoming, right?
No one really saw much of him. It was mainly the combine was, this is where we're going to see him, because Kuiper, I don't know how he gets access to all these games, but he just thinks, oh, this guy's going to be a good quarterback, and people are like, who? Everyone, I guarantee you, everyone's like, who's Josh Allen? Because no one watches Wyoming games. They weren't ranked. I'm sorry, if you're not a ranked team, you're not going to be looked at.
Yeah, and you see even guys like Carson Wentz. Where'd he go? North Dakota State?
Well, I think people heard about him because of how dominant they were in the FCS.
Right.
Or the FBS, excuse me.
Yes, exactly. So, it's one of those things where fans, we might not all see these especially quarterbacks in the first round, because most of the time first-round picks, if they're not drafted from a big school, they're most likely a quarterback from, North Dakota State or something like that. But, it's all about the evaluation. Every team evaluates that position, I think, differently.
Absolutely.
And you know what? I don't know. I don't know if the Giants were smart last year by skipping out on Darnold, for example, because we knew that Mayfield was gone. They did have their chance at Darnold if they wanted him. They did have their chance at Rosen and what was the other kid? Josh Allen. And then, of course, Lamar Jackson goes at the end of the first round. So they chose not to go that route. But you know what? At the same time, if you have the 4th or the 5th pick, a team like the 49ers doesn't need a quarterback, but you never know if somebody wants to trade up. You never know.
Winning doesn't affect their draft choice, you think?
It could, just for the fact that it allows a team like the 49ers or the Cardinals, for example, to trade out of the pick with maybe another quarterback needy team. Let's say Jacksonville. Let's say Jacksonville says, hey, 49ers, we're going to give you 2 first-round picks and a second-round pick to swap. And
wow, that's a lot.
Well, look, you go, let's say Jacksonville gets the 10th pick in the draft. Okay?
Yeah, but 2 first-rounders?
Well, it would essentially be 1. They'd swap, and then they'd give.
But then they lose their next first, which is.
But that's going to be the cost of business. Move up about 7 or 8 spots in the top of the first round.
Yeah, but a lot of guys just give up a next year's second and next year's third to not risk losing a first next year.
To jump that high though, if maybe
from 8, they'll be at number 8 roughly right now. So 8 to 2.
It would take at least 1 first round pick in addition.
Okay, I think so. Maybe I would ask for another one if I'm the 49ers, but am I going to give away that much for the
either
Jacksonville?
Even if you don't think it would take for another first, maybe 2 seconds and a third, it would be some compensation.
It'd be expensive,
but a team could do it. It wouldn't be I don't think the price would be too high, but I don't think it would be terribly low either. So
I don't know. I don't see the 49ers giving up that pick unless it's something really tempting
well, what
offer.
What if Bosa's gone and then they're like, man, we really like this other defensive player, but we also like this wide receiver, and we think one of them will be there at 8, and then we get an extra first-round pick next year from a team like Jacksonville, who may struggle again next year.
That's going to be heartbreaking for Jacksonville fans. One AFC title appearance in the last 20 years, and then all of a sudden,
I saw
nothing.
it coming, though. I saw it coming. It's hard to sustain success in the NFL without a really good quarterback. It just really is. You can have a dominant defense for 1 year or 2 years, but
And Blake
so
Bortles was
hard.
one of those guys. He came out of UCF, right?
I believe he did. Yes.
Yeah, and that's not a big school. I know they're number 12 right now in the nation, but
they're the national
undefeated.
champions. What are you talking about?
Yeah, they haven't lost in what 20 some odd, or was it like? It was a lot of games. It was like 200 I'm sorry, 600 days or something like that. Something absurd like that. And people are like, why aren't they in the top 4? Well, look at their schedule.
Yeah. I mean,
Have they faced one nationally ranked team?
I don't believe so.
Because one of the ads in the one of the promotion games for college football on Monday Night Football was UCF versus Cincinnati.
Yeah, this week. Yep.
Yeah.
Cincinnati. It's a big draw.
Yeah. Anything else we want to talk about when it comes to these teams, or anything crucial you want to discuss?
Yeah, I saw Odell Beckham Jr. and Marquise Goodwin before the game, having fun, having a little dance-off in front of Marquise Goodwin's sister who suffers from cerebral palsy. I thought that was a really cool moment. I thought it was a really awesome moment by the 49ers organization to bring in those kids from Paradise High School.
Oh, that lost their playoff hopes? Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, they lost their houses.
But like it
The
was
football team.
The team forfeited their playoff position. I think that was
I thought that was one of the classier things that I've seen in sports in a long time. Just an awesome gesture. We know that the smoke was a factor last night, and we know that the air quality was terrible.
We live around here. We live around that area, and it's bad.
Yeah, and for them to do
It's
that,
hard to breathe.
For them to bring out those kids, not just bring them to the game, but they were on the field. Like, they were on the field for the national anthem. Like, that's pretty cool. I thought that was incredibly classy. John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan met with those kids, so that was cool. That was an awesome
I'm honestly
thing to see.
surprised that some fans went to this game because of how poor the air is out there.
It was pretty bad.
You shouldn't be wholly breathing in that for that.
I mean, I'll tell you right now, like Jeff said, we're from this area. We're affected by the air quality, and it's terrible outside. I tried to go for a jog the other day, and I usually run for about 25, 30 minutes. I got about 5 minutes in, and I said, no, I'm going
I was
inside.
doing some chores with my folks that needed some help moving some stuff. Just my grandmother passed away. We had to move a bunch of boxes. And as soon as I walked outside and moved a box, I was lightheaded already.
Yeah, I mean, it's really bad. The air quality is absolutely terrible at this moment.
Yeah, it's bad.
But yeah, I mean, I thought those were a couple things that were cool. Odell Beckham and Richard Sherman after the game swapping jerseys.
He had 2 jerseys. Odell Beckham did. He gave one to good.
I know regionally, we're in this area, but it wouldn't surprise me if one day Odell Beckham Jr. is a 49er. I've had this sneaky suspicion because I think he's a perfect Kyle Shanahan receiver, a perfect one. I really do.
But would he?
Well, he just signed that contract.
Yeah.
But what if the Giants are trying to rebuild? Maybe they are like, hey,
they're not trading him.
They might at some point. I'm not saying today, but
no, he's their franchise for the next. He's there for life.
You know who else wasn't getting traded?
Who?
Khalil Mack.
Okay, that's a whole different story.
Why is that?
He was holding out. Odell got his contract.
Right.
Odell got his money.
But we've also seen Odell be kind of ripped by the owner here in the last few weeks. And he's the type of player that you could envision. If you don't think so, you can tell me I'm wrong. But he's the type of player you can envision a team wanting to unload if they're going through a rebuild, because he doesn't seem like a player that might be fully on board with maybe taking a step or two back. Just saying, we'll see.
I don't know, maybe, but I don't see. I see him being a Giant for life.
Maybe.
No pun intended.
Maybe. He could. I wouldn't be surprised. I'm sure he likes living in New York in that media market. It's awesome for his off-the-field career. Maybe he loves it there.
He
but
got a very lucky break getting drafted that high by a high-end team.
I will say, though, Jeff, after losing for a few years, sometimes it changes, people's mentality. We know he's a very emotional player. We know he's an emotional guy. We'll see down the road what happens. I don't think he'll play his entire career at the Giants, but we'll see. we'll see what happens. But yeah, I'm ready to go to break when you
We are going to take a break. When we get back, we'll be talking about some NBA games that have happened, some surprising overtime performances, and some teams we'll look at even further, saying maybe this team's a dark horse, maybe this team's not as good as everyone says they are. We'll get right on that when we return.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines, they got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
And welcome back to the GSMC Sports Podcast. We just finished our Monday Night Football review of the 49ers and Giants. Now let's move on to the National Basketball Association. And looking at all the games that have happened, I think we need to mainly talk about one incident that happened with the Nets game. Do you want to start off with that?
Sure. Yeah. Last night the Timberwolves hosted the Brooklyn Nets 120-113. The Wolves won. The biggest storyline here, though, wasn't the score.
It was Karis LeVert.
Yeah, it was the gruesome injury to Karis LeVert. A lot like the Gordon Hayward injury from last year. It's pretty bad. If you are interested, I'm sure there's a million videos on Twitter and YouTube.
Don't watch it. If you're squeamish, don't watch it. It's gross. Let's just say his leg was bent in a way it should not have bent.
It definitely goes down as one of the worst on-court injuries in basketball. Not good. His leg is definitely broken.
It's his ankle, it looked like.
Yeah, like the Hayward situation. I don't know exactly where the break was, but it's not
the worst
good.
Part of it is he saw it and didn't even he wasn't writhing in pain. He was
in shock.
Yeah,
he was like
that is by far the worst part.
You could tell he had a million things going through his head, but none bigger than that's my leg, and it shouldn't look like that.
Absolutely, it was really disturbing.
I've never seen my leg look like this before. Right?
Yeah, it wasn't very good to watch. It was very disturbing. It's always hard to watch someone injured like that. And you tell every player was affected by it, emotionally.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing we should talk about that also is Derrick Rose has been on the court for that injury, Gordon Hayward's injury, and Paul George's gruesome ankle injury,
and his own injury,
and but it's people are saying he's cursed, he's a curse. I'm saying a little much.
I saw on Twitter that people saying he's cursed, people saying he's a witch, all kinds of things.
I don't think he's wishing. I don't think he's a witch because wouldn't he purposely have that happen to somebody if he's a witch?
I don't think he's a witch either, but if I thought he was, that would be subscribing to the idea that witches exist. So I'm gonna go with that. No, he's not that.
I'm also saying that maybe it's just a freaky coincidence, of course. But
that is a heck of a coincidence.
That's a disturbing coincidence.
I don't want Derrick Rose on the court with me. He's like a
black cat, Someone walks across by him, all of a sudden they get injured.
I'm just saying, I don't want to be on the same court as Derrick Rose. I don't want to be on the same airplane as Derrick Rose. I don't want to be.
So you're saying a plane's gonna crash too?
You know what's funny is that I did recently I was recently in the same arena as Derrick Rose, and it now freaks me out, and I feel like I need to take a shower. So.
You haven't taken a shower since this weekend?
I have, but
okay.
You know what I mean? When you get creeped out a little bit and you're like, oh, my skin.
Yeah, I don't feel that way about Derrick Rose. If I'm on the court, I might be worried a tiny tad, but I think it's just The guy's just bad luck.
I have a question for you. You
What?
think Jimmy Butler's like, dude, I gotta go before something bad happens to me?
I don't think that was it. He was actually talking after the Kings game, like the loss to the Kings, his final game with the Timberwolves, like, I can't do 41 minutes every night. We have 14 other guys on our bench and on the floor, so he was kind of frustrated, which is understandable. 41 minutes is a long time, so
Yeah.
that's. I think that's what tipped him off the most. Is
That
his
is-
long playing time.
I wonder who, because I saw that circulating on Twitter last night, but I wonder who found out that Derrick Rose has been on the court for all those things. Like, who was
They
like,
did that. If they found that out almost instantly.
and I know, it was like, who is sitting there waiting to tweet this?
Someone was so ready for it.
Like, who is sitting there waiting for a dude to get majorly injured in a game that Derrick Rose played in so he could be like, send?
I think they already knew about the 3 injuries, and they found out about that injury,
Right.
and it was like, oh, well, this is a coincidence we need to talk about.
Yeah. So the Timberwolves, like we said, win the game. Derrick Rose at 23 and 6. Karl Anthony Towns 25 and 21. He had a big game. So we'll see if the Timberwolves move forward after that trade. Obviously they'll have bigger tests coming up than the Nets. And LeVert actually, unfortunately for the Nets, has been maybe their best player. I mean, him, D'Angelo Russell, kind of were the two guys I think that you're looking at for the future of this team, and his loss, I think, will be felt by them.
Absolutely, yeah, I agree with that. And looking,
They had a decent start to the season too. Like, you could say the Nets were on their way to make the playoffs. Honestly, I know that sounds weird to say.
That's a big statement, but it is the Eastern Conference.
But being like around 500 in the East is like a really good shot. You know?
Absolutely. And talking about surprises, the Clippers beat the Warriors last night.
Man, that was a fun game, and if you saw Steve Ballmer, the owner of the Clippers, you would have thought they had just won Game 7 of the Western Conference
Okay,
Finals.
in his defense, beating them is like winning the finals.
I don't know. I mean, I get it. Like, they're not supposed to win, but the Warriors also, it was a regular season game. Curry didn't play. Like, I don't know.
Curry plays, they may not win, but Durant had a
fouled out.
triple-double
He fouled out.
and still had a triple-double.
He and Draymond Green got in a
33,
fight.
11, and 10. Yeah, Draymond Green and him got in a little scuffle. Green only had 6 points with 14 rebounds. And I think Green needs to help more with the offensive part of the game.
Well, he's going for defense player there. You can't do both all the
he
time,
had
you know?
3 steals, but he also had 4 turnovers.
Yeah.
So he's kind of not helping as much.
He facilitates a lot through that. He was leading the league in assists.
Yeah.
So,
at one
I
point,
mean-
but not anymore. Klay Thompson also had 31 points, so that they're doing fine without Curry. They couldn't get it done this game, which I'm sure no one's really caring about anymore.
Yep, their season's over. I've seen enough.
Yeah. Other games that were marked: the Pelicans beat the Raptors 126 to 110.
That was a big game.
Yes, it was a big game. Anthony Davis with the 25-point, 20-rebound game. Moore, the shooting guard out of nowhere, has 30 points. And Julius Randle with 17 points, 12 rebounds himself. Like, this was a very good game for a lot of different players.
Yeah, the Pelicans had the lead early. They had the lead at halftime.
Kawhi Leonard and Kyle Lowry did not have good games.
Right, they did well.
Kawhi had 20 points and 6 rebounds. For him, that's not good, all things considered. And Lowry had only 4 points, but 11 assists. So
the Pelicans, a lot of people write them off because they have Anthony Davis, but then they don't really have like a team of like notable players other than maybe Holiday, but they've been playing very well.
You can add Julius Randle, I guess, in that list.
Their role players have been playing very well, though. So, I mean, they are a team that's, I feel like, under the radar a little bit. Yes, they have Anthony Davis. We know how great he is. But collectively, this is a decent team and a better team that Davis has had in a while, in my opinion.
Yeah. And another game I kind of want to note, a surprising Sacramento Kings beat the San Antonio Spurs. A 14-game losing streak to the Spurs ended as the Kings win this 104-99.
14-game losing streak.
Yeah.
It was at 3.5 years in the NBA. He played him 4 times a year. Yeah.
And Bogdanovich off the bench with 22 points. But the thing is with this is the Kings are 8-6.
They're 8-6.
What is happening?
They played the Spurs last night, and I think their season so far is best described by what Popovich had to say after the game about the Kings, and it was that I'm paraphrasing here, but basically he said, the culture here has drastically changed. It's a lot different, and he was just crediting the Kings with being a completely different looking team than they were from last year. And you have to say they are. Last year, they were 30th in the NBA in pace. They were the slowest moving team up and down the court last year. This year, they're number 2 in pace at this juncture of the season. They're fast. They're young. They play to their strengths. And honestly, they just tire teams out. You saw with the Heat and the Magic, both of their coaches respectively said, hey, we don't like that to play at that kind of pace. And you saw it in those games where they just break away late. And if you look at their numbers, in the first half, they usually are losing the game. The second half, they normally take over the game and win. And it happened last night as well.
Yeah, the stamina factor.
Is stamina. So that's what I credit it to. You got some young players there that are playing fast. De'Aaron Fox is an early season favorite for most improved player in the NBA. Actually, him and Derrick Rose, it looks like they're the top 2 right now, which is kind of funny to say for a former MVP.
Rose above because of the 51-point game alone.
Right. We'll see how the season goes, but Fox has upped his averages, so I think he's like 19 and 7.5 now, 19 points and 7.5 assists. We saw him with a triple-double. I mean, we saw him with a LeBron James type triple-double a couple weeks ago where he had, 30 points, over 30 points, over 10 rebounds, over 10 assists, under the age of 21 or whatever it was.
Well, speaking of LeBron and the Lakers, they are kind of on a 3-game winning streak at the moment.
They have been playing well lately.
They won their last game on Sunday.
They beat the Kings, too, over the weekend.
Yes, and they beat the Hawks 107-106.
By the skin of their teeth.
LeBron James has said he was almost breaking. He almost broke. He almost snapped after the frustrating start to the season for the Lakers.
I'm not so sure, though, that everything is okay now. I know that they've won a couple games in a row, but we'll see how they play against some of the upper-tier teams. Beating the Kings on a back-to-back, beating the Hawks by a point at home, you know what I mean? Like, we'll see.
The Hawks are 3-10.
Yeah, we'll see with them. I still think they have a lot of issues on that roster.
Well, their next game is on, I think, Friday. No, it's not.
It's
Saturday?
For the Lakers?
Yeah.
Are they really?
They haven't played for a while. Wow.
Oh, no, they play on Wednesday. They play the Blazers. They host Portland. They host Portland on ESPN. I feel like they just played Portland. Didn't they just play Portland? They did. It's the Western Conference.
Yeah, they're 7-6, but the Trailblazers are a very quiet 10-3.
See, but I also think that's a game that the Lakers should win just because they're at home. They've had rest. They haven't been playing a lot lately. They've had, time between games. So,
but I don't think you're getting enough credit to the Blazers or Trailblazers at a 10-3. It's pretty darn impressive.
Absolutely. They've had a really strong start to the season. I'm impressed by them. They were the team that I picked to be the 8th seed. It looks like I might be too low on that.
They might be like 3.
Yeah, as of today, they're what, 2? Yeah, they're 2. They're ahead of Denver. Let's look at the playoffs picture in the West. Golden State, Portland, Denver, Clippers, Thunder, Spurs, Memphis, and the Sacramento Kings. Those are your 8 playoff teams, guys.
At 8-6, if they teams are I know the Grizzlies are also 7-6. If it was the Eastern Conference, they'd be in the middle.
You know what's funny? If you take a look right now at both conferences, it only has taken 15 games, and you can already see the disparity between the conferences. You look at the West, they have 4 teams that are under 500, and 3 of those teams have at least 5 wins. You look at the East, they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 teams under 500. 2 of them are currently in the playoffs, and 5 of them are under 4 wins. The East is we've talked about it.
We've beaten this drum before,
but some people are saying the East is a little bit better this year. I would disagree. Maybe the top is a little bit better, but so far the bottom looks as bad or worse as years past. So I guess we'll see.
Yeah, definitely. It's a like I said, we're beating this drum before. It's a old.
Had you heard any of those things though? I heard people say the Eastern Conference is better because the Raptors are good. The top teams are good, but the bottom is so bad.
That's where it had there are some elite teams in the East, no question about it. But the bottom is so bottom that it makes it worse.
So we just said that the Kings would be the 8th seed in the West if the playoffs started today. They would be the 4th team in the East. They would have a home playoff series.
I don't know if that shows how good the East is, or how good the West is, or how bad the East is.
Yeah, and of course the East boasts the worst team currently in the NBA, the Cavaliers at 1-11.
And they have the Hawks at 3-10.
Yeah, yikes.
So, anything else about the NBA you want to discuss?
Yeah, I did want to talk about the Jazz Grizzlies game. That's a notable game. The Jazz win 96-88. Memphis is another team. We just talked about the Kings. Memphis, very surprising start. But with Conley and Gasol healthy, they look to be on the right track this year. However, the Jazz get the big win in a defensive battle. Memphis and Utah are two of the better defensive teams in the league, so not surprising to see a score like that. But it was a notable game early on this season.
Yeah, definitely. So, looking at the rest of the season for the NBA, we'll look at that later. And it's probably going to be the same type of teams in the playoffs. Let's get real. But we are going to take a short break. When we get back, we'll be talking about Le'Veon Bell, his last day to check in to the Steelers.
Will it be the last time we talk about him?
It will be.
We'll see.
Will Le'Veon Bell stand up? We will find out, and we will talk about it when we return.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
And welcome back to the GSMC Sports Podcast. We are going to finish discussing the Le'Veon Bell issue. We just finished talking about
For the last time, or?
God, let's hope for the last time.
Yeah, we'll see.
Because this is his last day to check in to the Steelers organization for him to play this season.
Mm-hmm.
It's the final countdown. Do-do-do-do. Do-do-do-do-do. Do-do-do-do. Do-do-do-do-do-do.
So what are you saying?
Heading to Venus. Okay,
So are you saying he ain't coming?
I still bet my house he ain't coming.
You think so? Is that based on the latest news? Just reported.
Have you heard anything? We would have heard stuff by now. He's not going to go. Is he going to go like the last possible second?
Well, he has until 4 p.m. Pittsburgh time to do it. So check in or not.
Yes, because Pittsburgh time is different from Eastern time.
Pittsburgh Standard Time, PST. Ever heard of it?
That's Pacific Standard Time.
Okay.
Did you go to college?
I did.
Okay. We'll just continue on.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know, man. Do you? Okay, so is it possible that he doesn't report? Absolutely. But does the recent report of, there's a chance he might not report, does that change my perception of the situation? No, it doesn't. It sounds like, to me, and you can disagree with me on this point if you'd like, but it sounds like to me it's a last-ditch effort by an agent to get a long-term contract, even though it's 99%
this is the
sure.
agent doing this?
Yeah, absolutely. This is definitely the workings of an agent.
This is not Le'Veon Bell's decision. His agent's telling him to do this. He's lost 40, how much? $40 million?
No. 40.
He's got, or something along those lines.
If he sits out the whole season, he will have lost about $14 million. He can still make $6 million if he reports today. It's about 14. So But at the end of the day, what he's looking for is a long-term contract. So it might be giving up a little bit, but he's looking to make, I don't know, 60, 70 million, whatever the price tag will be for Le'Veon Bell on the open market. We will find out, because it does obviously sound like he won't be back with the Steelers after this year.
So as of week 10, he's lost more than $8.55 million.
Right. He's lost more than half of what the franchise tag would be. Mm-hmm.
That's absurd. He will be paid he's trying to get paid as much as high as like $25 million.
He won't get 25 a year. He could get like an Odell Beckham type contract.
I'm not saying 25 a year, just maybe 25 total.
Oh, no. He'll get more than that for sure.
Oh, I think that's where the Steelers are lowballing him, though.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense the Steelers aren't going to pay him what he wants. He'll be on a different team next year. In fact...
what team is going to pay him, though?
Well, it's funny that you say that, because there is updated gambling odds on this. And right now, the odds-on favorite to have Le'Veon Bell... So this is...
Can I guess who it is?
Yes, but if you bet on this, it's what team will he be on for Game 1 of next season. So that's what the bet is. Go ahead.
I'm gonna guess the Raiders first.
The Raiders are not in the top 5, but they are on this list. Hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. They're 10. They're 10-1.
I expected that to be higher, but okay. How is number 1 the Cowboys?
The Cowboys are not on this list. They have Ezekiel Elliott. I don't think they're going that route.
Oh, it's Jerry Jones, that kind of guy that would totally do that, though. No?
They're not on the list.
Okay. Who's first?
Green Bay.
Huh.
At 5-2.
That's different.
You want to know who's number 2?
Sure.
San Francisco 49ers.
Okay.
9-4. Which is funny.
Have the Niners shown interest in him?
I'm not sure. There was a little bit of a rumor in the offseason that they might have been interested in a Le'Veon Bell type of player.
Okay, if you're hearing that we have someone honking their horn like crazy, I think someone's road raging right now in front of us.
So, Le'Veon Bell to the Niners, I don't know if that was a rumor, if people are just saying like, hey, they have the cap space and hey, they have the need. Well, we'll see. Do you want to know who's number 3 on this list?
Is it the Colts?
No, I think it's kind of a trick question. It's the
Steelers.
Yeah, it's the Steelers.
He's not going there.
3-1 odds.
I doubt it.
Yeah, probably not. There are other teams in there: the Colts, the Browns, the Jets, the Dolphins, the Texans, the Lions, then the Raiders, then the Pats, then the Skins, and the Seahawks. So we'll see. But you don't think he will report? You think that he's for sure not coming back?
It's too late. He should not be going last minute. No.
Well, I mean,
I'm saying that it's not happening.
So do you think that the report that he's not, you think that's legit?
Yes.
We'll see. Just seems like a little bit fishy to me. Like, of course it comes out the day before that he's not going to report, We'll see. So obviously we don't expect him to be on the Steelers next year.
Yeah, I'm not going to believe he's doing this. He's not a Steeler. I don't think he's even a Steeler right now, to be honest.
Right.
Like, it feels like that way, no?
For this year or for the future?
Just for this year. Like, he feels like he's just not a part of that team.
Yeah, we'll see. Until that deadline hits and he's not there and he didn't report, I still am leaning that he will report. So it will be, I understand him holding out, but it would be, I think now it would be a financial detriment if he doesn't play this year, just because I think if he played from now on and still show that he was really good, which I'm sure he is, I think that would make teams feel very confident in giving him that big long-term deal. Whereas if he sits a whole season, then it's like an out-of-sight, out-of-mind thing. Then you're like, well, is he still that good? He missed a year. Are we getting the Le'Veon Bell that tore up the NFL, or are we getting a older Le'Veon Bell that hasn't played football in a year who may or may not be as good as he once was? So that's kind of how I feel about it. What about you? Or do you think he's hurting his future if he doesn't play this season at all?
I think he's still going to be one of the highest touted free agents in the market, type of thing. I still think he's going, if he manages to be a free agent. If he comes in today, he can be a free agent. Mm-hmm. But if he doesn't, it's going to be someone, he's going to get traded. He has to be traded.
Well, I think technically the Steelers can franchise him for one more year, even if he does show up today. But it would be a really high price.
I don't think he could be eligible for a free agency, can he?
Well, he can be free agent. He can be eligible if the Steelers don't tag him, but they can tag him again whether he reports or not, is what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. So,
I just think he's going to be with another team by next season.
I think so.
It seems like it's almost like a formality.
Yeah. Plus, the Steelers have seen what Connor can do, and is he the same player? Maybe, maybe not. But he's a lot cheaper, so it makes that decision easier, right?
Yeah, I guess. But
it's like you have two sports cars, and they both go about the same speed, and one is a tenth of the price. You know, like which one are you going with?
Yeah,
right?
But you didn't know it was going to be a sports car until you unwrapped it.
Right, but now you know. Like you know what you have now, right? So,
yeah, but the question is James Conner a one season wonder?
No, he's not a quarterback. If you're a running back and you're good, you're good.
I guess we'll see. But
he's a good player. He can catch the ball. He can run the ball. He's a good player. I don't know if he's Le'Veon Bell good, but he's a good player.
Yeah, but
you can win with James Conner.
Yeah. Anything else you want to discuss about this situation?
Not really. Well, I guess when we look at the draft order as it stands right now, what if one of those teams in the top 10 got Le'Veon Bell added to their team plus a top 10 pick?
Playoff contender.
You mentioned the Raiders being a team. Would Le'Veon Bell even want to go there? It's a big difference going from Pittsburgh to Oakland in terms of organization.
True. But I feel like Gruden would do something to convince him money-wise, you know?
Gruden does like his veteran players.
He does like his veteran players.
The Raiders do have money, but wouldn't that be something if they didn't pay Khalil Mack, but they paid Le'Veon Bell? That would be interesting.
But if Carr is gone, then all that money is free to go. All that money is available to pay.
Some of it, yeah. They still have to pay a little bit.
Well, yeah, but there's still a lot more than there was before.
But then it brings up the point as, would Le'Veon Bell go to a Raiders team that doesn't have a quarterback, has a shaky offensive line, has a terrible defense? You know,
it's all about the money.
Right.
I don't think he cares less if they're good or not.
Maybe. He might have options, though. So if he has like 3 or 4 teams that are offering him a similar contract, it could be one of those things where, okay, well, this team is further along. I can help this team. Like, what if the Texans roll in and they say, hey, we don't have a good running back?
Well, they desperately need this.
Tell me how exciting that would be. Deshaun Watson, Le'Veon Bell, and DeAndre Hopkins getting Will Fuller back. Demaryius Thomas. That's a fun offense.
Yeah, I absolutely agree.
Cool.
But we will see. It's so unexpected what's going to happen, to be honest. Anything could happen.
Yep.
So we will take a short break. When we get back, we'll talk about anything else in the sports world, that will need to be discussed, and we'll be right there right after this.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red-hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's GSMCpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
And welcome back to the GSMC Sports Podcast. We are on the final stretch of this podcast for today. We've talked about Monday Night Football. We've talked about Le'Veon Bell. We've talked about the NBA. And yet, we still don't know about anything about baseball because free agency has not started yet. So, anything else you want to discuss? Anything else of topic?
Last tidbit about Le'Veon Bell. His agent, according to Pro Football Talk, his agent according to texts from his agent, say that he wants to be paid like a franchise quarterback and he's not afraid to retire if needed. So, yeah, I think his agent is behind a lot of this stuff.
Wow, retire. That's a...
And that was from Pro Football Talk. They're a very reputable source, so if it...
That seems a little much, don't you think?
Yeah,
Retiring?
I mean, that's what I'm saying. It just seems like a scare tactic. Maybe it was one last ditch effort to get the Steelers to pony up,
Isn't
which
that
obviously
being really
isn't
greedy?
working.
Because how many people would kill for just like $9 million, let alone like... I know you're a great running back and all, but you could just be happy you're making $9 million or $10 million or $15 million a year, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, my lord, it's millions.
Yeah, but, it's all relative, right? Like, it's millions of dollars.
Sometimes
but
you just got to take what you can get. I think it's going to come down to the point where he's like, I got to take what I can get so I can get a salary again.
Yeah, but are you willing to give up $6 million for the rest of the season to ensure that you get $50 to $60 million, though? Because he's going to get big guarantees.
Yeah, but if at the end of the next season or the next offseason and he's still not signed with anyone, and someone say, hey, you want
Oh, he'll
to
be signed by the beginning of the next offseason, though.
But I'm just saying this is an if. If the threat goes the opposite way, no one wants to mess with him. He's gonna go, okay, I just need any contract. And some contracts goes, okay, how about like this 2-year, $15 million or $10 million deal?
Mm-hmm.
He's gonna take it.
Maybe. We'll see.
Yeah,
But-
that's what I think the situation will come to. If it goes to that point, he's gonna just try to take anything he can.
Yeah, did you see that Hugh Jackson is back with the Bengals?
Is he?
Yes. Hugh Jackson gets to go back and work for his old buddy Marvin Lewis.
What is his job?
So he'll be a special assistant to the head coach. That's his actual title. I'm sure he'll just be an offensive guy.
Special assistant to the head coach.
Yep, that's his title.
Is he Dwight Schrute from The Office? That sounds like assistant to the regional manager type stuff. It sounds like it's made up.
Yeah, so his role will include analyzing opponents and helping out with preparation. So
I love it's special assistant, like it's an extra title to the name. Like, just say assistant head coach or assistant coach.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to put another thing to it. Wow. That feels like you give that to the kid, like to the kid that didn't get picked on the football team, and you need to give him a job or something. It's like, hey, you can be the specialist coach, you know? Like the kid that can't play football very well, but you don't want to start him. So you're like, hey, you want to be the assistant special head coach, super duper awesome?
Mm-hmm.
That's basically what's happening right now. You're feeling sorry for the kid.
Do you feel sorry for Nathan Peterman, who has been cut by the Bills?
Yes.
You do?
The amount of garbage that's been thrown at him literally is not fair to him or his wife, especially on her birthday. People in Buffalo, if you're throwing food, whoever threw food at him and his wife on his wife's birthday at a restaurant, you're a scumbag. Yeah, I'm saying it right now because that's not cool. You're crossing a line. Let him have his personal life. You can throw stuff on the field. Throw the dildos on the field like you do in Buffalo, fine. But don't throw it at the man and his wife.
So do you...
There's a certain line you don't cross. Don't cross it when it's off the field.
Do you feel bad for him, though, getting cut, though? Like, I'm not...
Oh, he deserved to get cut, no doubt about it. But I just think the fact of the matter is he was treated very poorly by the fan base, and that's not fair to him.
Do you think a team will pick him up?
I can see him as a practice squad quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're supposed to throw interceptions.
Yeah, I think the writing was on the wall for him when Matt Barkley came off the streets, literally, and tore it
Played
up.
much better.
Yeah, big time. So, C.J. Anderson was let go by the Panthers. Are you surprised by that?
A little bit. What about you?
Not really, because he's been dealing with injuries the last few years, and he hasn't been a good player in a couple years. I mean, I thought it was a decent move when they signed him because it gave them a different option other than McCaffrey, different type of player.
Yeah, it just seemed like he was just there as insurance.
Yeah, C.J. Anderson signed a 1-year deal this year. Do you think that he's done in the NFL? He's had 8 carries in his last 5 games.
I don't think he's going to want to be done, but I don't think anyone's going to sign him, so that's going to be why he's going to be done. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, I don't see... He's not going to go to where he used to be, though, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So, did you hear about Sean Payton smashing a fire alarm?
I don't understand why he did that. Was it did he mean to break it, or was he just mad?
The fire alarm kept going off in the locker room before Sunday's game against the Bengals, and he smashed it to stop it. It was like there's an issue going on.
That's a felony. So,
is it smashing the alarm?
It's dismantling. It's against the law. Well, I'm pretty much sure smashing the alarm instead of just turning.
Well, they
it
were
off.
having problems with the alarms. The alarms weren't.
Still smash. That's government property.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
I'm pretty sure, at least.
I don't
or
know
at
if
least the
there's
city's property.
I don't know if there's a crime there, but I think it's kind of funny.
It's against the law to disconnect smoke detector, so I'm assuming smashing a fire alarm will also be that.
Maybe. Yeah, so he hasn't been charged with the crime.
He might. He gets arrested on the field, but no. I think it's still that's absurd. You should not smash that kind of stuff. But okay.
Yeah, I think
Calm
that's
down,
all.
son.
That's all we have today.
Okay. Thank you so much for listening to us. Tune us in tomorrow. We'll continue our sports podcast. But if you want to listen to us today more, we have our football podcast today, and we also have our basketball podcast today. I almost forgot our order. But please tune in, and we will love to know that you're listening to us. So we will see you next time.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.